The void of space stretched endlessly in all directions, broken only by the distant glow of dying stars. In this emptiness, something moved that should not have existed. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the viewport of the research station Meridian, her breath fogging the reinforced glass. What she saw defied everything she knew about physics, warfare, and death itself. "Run the scan again," she whispered to her communications officer. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across the holographic display, his face pale in the blue light. "Ma'am, I've run it 12 times. The readings are consistent. That ship, it's the USS Blackstar." Elena's blood turned to ice. Every human in the galaxy knew that name. The Blackstar had been humanity's greatest warship, lost 3 years ago in the Battle of Kepler's Edge. Lost with all hands. Lost with her sister aboard. "That's impossible," Elena said, but her voice cracked. "The Blackstar was destroyed. I saw the footage myself." Through the viewport, the massive vessel drifted closer. Its hull was black as the void itself, but not the black of paint or metal. This was the black of something that had been touched by death and refused to stay dead. Strange lights pulsed along its length. Not the warm glow of human technology, but something cold and alien. "Captain." Chen's voice was barely a whisper. "It's hailing us." Elena turned sharply. "What did you say?" "The Blackstar is sending a transmission, audio only." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Elena's hand hovered over the communication panel. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to jump to hyperspace and never look back. But if there was, even a chance that someone aboard that ghost ship was still alive. "Put it through," she ordered. Static filled the bridge, the harsh sound of interference across impossible distances. Then, cutting through the noise like a blade, came a voice that Elena recognized. A voice that belonged to someone who should have been dead for 3 years. "This is Commander Sarah Vasquez of the USS Blackstar. To any human vessels receiving this transmission, stay away. We are no longer what we once were." Elena's knees buckled. She gripped the command chair to keep from falling. That was Sarah's voice. Her sister's voice. But there was something wrong with it. Something that made Elena's skin crawl. It was too flat, too emotionless, as if the speaker had forgotten what it meant to be human. "Sarah?" Elena activated the transmitter with shaking hands. "Sarah, this is Elena. This is your sister. What happened to you?" The silence stretched for an eternity. When Sarah's voice returned, it carried a weight that seemed to press down on everyone in the bridge. "Elena, you should not have come here. None of you should be here. The war is over, sister. We won, but the cost..." The transmission flickered. "The cost was everything we were." "What war?" Elena demanded. "Sarah, the Zephyrian conflict ended 2 years ago. There is no war." A sound came through the speakers that might have been laughter, if laughter could be stripped of all joy and warmth. "Not that war, little sister. The real war. The one they never told you about. The one we've been fighting in the spaces between space, in the gaps where reality grows thin." The Blackstar was close enough now that Elena could see details of its hull. What she had taken for battle damage was something far worse. The ship's armor plating seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Strange symbols were carved deep into the hull, symbols that hurt to look at directly, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. "Captain," Chief Engineer Rodriguez spoke up from his station, his voice tight with fear. "I'm reading massive energy signatures from that ship. Whatever's powering it, it's not human technology. The quantum resonance patterns are all wrong." Elena ignored him. Her entire focus was on the speakers, on her sister's impossible voice. "Sarah, listen to me. Whatever happened, we can fix this. Come aboard the Meridian, let us help you." "Help?" The word came out like a curse. "Elena, do you know what lies in the deep dark between the stars? Do you know what's been watching humanity since we first looked up at the night sky? We found out. We found the Watchers, and they found us. The lights on the Blackstar pulsed brighter, and suddenly Elena could see movement within the ship. Shadows that moved wrong, that seemed to exist in spaces where there should be solid bulkheads. The ship itself appeared to be breathing. The Zephyrians were just the beginning, Sarah continued. A test, a way to measure our strength. But the real enemy, they've been waiting for us to grow strong enough to be worth their attention. And when we did, when we finally caught their eye, they came for us. Where are you going, Sarah? Elena asked. Why are you here? We're going home, Elena. Back to Earth, back to finish what we started. The Watchers made us into something new, something that can't die, can't stop, can't feel mercy. They made us into the perfect weapon, and now we're going to use that weapon to save humanity the only way we can. The implication hit Elena like a physical blow. No, Sarah, no. You can't mean by ending it before the real war begins, by making sure there's nothing left for them to corrupt, nothing left for them to feed on. The transmission cut to static, then silence. The Blackstar began to turn, its impossible, bulk moving with fluid grace. Its destination was clear, the hyperspace jump point that would take it directly to the Sol system, to Earth, to home. Elena stared at the retreating vessel, her mind reeling. Her sister was alive, but she wasn't human anymore. She was coming home, but not to save humanity. She was coming to destroy it. Captain, Chen's voice was barely audible. What are your orders? Elena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of an impossible decision settling on her shoulders. When she opened them again, her voice was steady and cold. Send an emergency transmission to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them the Blackstar is coming home. Tell them to mobilize every ship in the fleet. She paused, watching the ghost ship disappear into hyperspace. And tell them that humanity's greatest hero has become its greatest threat. Chapter 2. The Interceptor Admiral Marcus Kane stood before the largest holographic display in Earth Command, watching the impossible. The tactical projection showed the Sol system in 3 dimensions, with every human ship, station, and defense platform highlighted in blue. At the edge of the display, a single red dot moved steadily inward. The USS Blackstar. How long until it reaches Earth? Kane asked without turning around. 17 hours at current speed, replied his aide, Colonel Martinez. But sir, that speed should be impossible. The Blackstar is moving at nearly twice the maximum velocity of any known human vessel. Kane nodded grimly. He'd read Elena Vasquez's report a dozen times. A ghost ship crewed by the dead, powered by alien technology, coming home to commit genocide in the name of salvation. 3 years ago, he would have recommended psychological evaluation for anyone making such claims. Now, after everything humanity had seen in the deep dark, he knew better than to dismiss the impossible. Status of the defense fleet? All available. Ships are converging on the Blackstar's projected course. The Valiant, Resolute, and Intrepid will intercept in approximately 4 hours. The Meridian is already in pursuit, but they're falling behind. Kane finally turned away from the display. His weathered face bore the scars of 40 years of military service, but his eyes held a sharpness that age couldn't dull. 3 ships against the Blackstar. It won't be enough. Sir, with respect, the Blackstar has been missing for 3 years. Even if it survived the Battle of Kepler's Edge, it's 1 ship against our entire fleet. The odds mean nothing when you're facing something that shouldn't exist. Kane moved to his personal terminal, fingers flying over the holographic interface. I'm authorizing Operation Last Stand. Deploy the Titan defense grid. Evacuate all civilian populations from the inner system. Martinez paled. The Titan defense grid was humanity's ultimate weapon, a network of planet-killer satellites that could turn entire worlds to ash. It had never been used, never even been tested at full power. Sir, if we activate Titan, if we don't, there might not be anyone left to regret the decision. Kane's voice was final. Send the authorization codes. 4 hours later, Captain. James Fletcher watched through the bridge windows of the Valiant as the Blackstar materialized from hyperspace. Even across the vast distance, the ghost ship was visible to the naked eye, a wound in space itself, darker than the void around. Hit all ships, this is Fletcher. Form attack formation Delta 7, target the Blackstar's engine section. We're going to try to disable her before she can reach the inner system. Valiant, this is Captain Torres of the Resolute. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Fletcher looked at his tactical display and felt his blood chill. The Blackstar wasn't just moving. It was changing. The ship's hull was shifting, extending, growing new sections that had never existed in the original design. It was becoming something larger, more complex, more alien with each passing moment. All ships, maintain formation. Weapons hot, on my mark. The Blackstar opened fire. But it wasn't firing weapons that Fletcher recognized. Streams of something that looked like liquid darkness erupted from points along the ghost ship's hull. Where they struck the Intrepid, the destroyer's armor didn't just melt, it ceased to exist, leaving perfectly spherical holes through which the cosmos was visible. Intrepid is taking critical damage, came the panicked transmission. Hull breaches on all decks. We're losing atmosphere. We're losing... The transmission cut to static as the Intrepid broke apart, its death silent in the vacuum of space. Return. Fire. All weapons, return fire, Fletcher shouted. The combined firepower of the Valiant and Resolute hammered into the Blackstar. Nuclear warheads detonated against its hull in flowers of white fire. Particle beams carved glowing lines across its armor. For a moment, Fletcher dared to hope. Then the light faded, and the Blackstar remained untouched. Not damaged. The weapons hadn't even left scorch marks on its impossible hull. Impossible, whispered Fletcher's tactical officer. Sir, our weapons are having no effect whatsoever. The Blackstar turned toward them with predatory grace. Fletcher could see details of its hull now, see the way it seemed to writhe and pulse like living tissue. Strange lights moved beneath its surface. Not the clean glow of human technology, but something organic and wrong. This is the Blackstar, came a voice over the comm system. Not Sarah Vasquez this time, but someone else. Someone Fletcher recognized from the service records. This is Lieutenant Commander Chen. To the crews of the human vessels, you cannot stop us, you cannot hurt us. But we remember what it was like to be you. Run. Run while you still can. Chen? Fletcher activated his transmitter. David Chen, is that you? This is Captain Fletcher. We served together on the horizon. A pause. When Chen's voice returned, it carried a weight of infinite sadness. James, you should have stayed home. You should have stayed with your family. David, whatever's been done to you, we can fix it. Come home, come back to us. Something that might have been laughter echoed through the comm system. Home? James, we are home. This is what we've become. This is what we chose to become. The Watchers showed us the truth, showed us what's coming for humanity. The only way to save you is to end you quickly, before they can make you into something worse. The Blackstar fired again. The Resolute tried to evade, its engines screaming as it dove toward the plane of the ecliptic. It wasn't fast enough. Dark energy washed over the cruiser, and Fletcher watched in horror as Captain Torres's ship began to change. The hull stretched and warped, taking on the same fluid characteristics as the Blackstar. Through the viewports, Fletcher could see the crew moving, but they were moving wrong, as if they'd forgotten how human bodies were supposed to work. Resolute. Do you copy? Torres respond. Static. Then, impossibly, Torres's voice came through, the speakers. But it was flat, emotionless, exactly like Sarah Vasquez had sounded. This is Captain Torres of the Resolute. We understand now, Fletcher. We see what we must do. Join us. Let us show you the peace of surrender. The Resolute turned its weapons on the Valiant. Fletcher's crew looked to him for orders, their faces pale with terror. They were alone now, facing two ships that had once been human, but were something else entirely. Behind them lay Earth, with its 8 billion souls who had no idea what was coming for them. All hands, Fletcher said over the ship's intercom, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through his veins. "This is the captain. We're going to make a run for Earth. We're going to warn them. And if we don't make it," he paused, thinking of his wife, his children, all the people who were counting on them. "If we don't make it, at least we'll die as humans." The Valiant turned and ran, racing toward Earth with the ghost ships in pursuit. Behind them, Fletcher could hear something over the comm system that chilled him to the bone. It was singing. All the converted crews of the Blackstar and Resolute singing in harmony. But it wasn't a human song. It was something older, something that spoke of vast intelligences waiting in the dark between stars. The Watchers were coming home. Chapter 3. The last stand. Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the research station. Meridian, now racing through hyperspace toward Earth. Around her, the crew worked with desperate efficiency, trying to analyze the sensor data they'd gathered from their encounter with the Blackstar. What they'd discovered was worse than anyone had imagined. "The quantum signatures are off the charts," reported Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the station's chief scientist. Her normally steady hands shook as she manipulated the holographic data displays. "Whatever's powering the Blackstar, it's not from this dimension. It's drawing energy from somewhere else, somewhere that doesn't follow our laws of physics." Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing Earth's position. They were still 6 hours out, but long-range sensors were already picking up signs of chaos in the Sol system. 3 more ships had gone dark in the past hour: the heavy cruiser, Determination, the destroyer, Phoenix, and the supply vessel, Hope. Each time their final transmissions had been the same: surrender, followed by that inhuman singing. "Captain," Communications Officer Park looked up from his station, his face grave. "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Kane on Earth." "Put it through." Kane's weathered face appeared on the main screen, the background behind him, showing the frantic activity of Earth Command's war room. "Captain Vasquez, what's your status?" 6 hours out from Earth, Admiral. We have critical intelligence about the Blackstar. The ship has been fundamentally altered by alien technology. It's not just repaired, it's been transformed into something that violates our understanding of physics. Kane nodded grimly. "We've seen the tactical reports. The Blackstar is converting our own ships to its cause. Every vessel that engages it either dies or joins it. We've lost 7 ships in the past 6 hours. Elena felt her heart sink. "Admiral, there's something else. The entity controlling the ship, it claims to be my sister, Sarah Vasquez. But it's not her anymore. It's something wearing her memories, her voice. It believes it's saving humanity by destroying us." "Understood. Captain, I need you to maintain your current course but stay out of the battle zone. Your ship has the most complete sensor data on the Blackstar. If our defense fails, you may be humanity's only hope of understanding what we're facing." The transmission flickered as explosions bloomed in the space around Earth. Through the static, Elena could see the massive shapes of the Titan defense grid satellites powering up, their planet-killer weapons charging with ominous blue light. "Admiral, you're not actually going to... If the Blackstar reaches Earth, Captain, there won't be an Earth left to save. At least this way we die as humans rather than as puppets for alien masters." The transmission cut out, leaving Elena staring at the blank screen. Around her, the bridge crew had fallen silent, the weight of Kane's words settling over them like a shroud. On Earth, Admiral Kane stood in the underground command bunker, watching the tactical display as the final act of humanity's greatest. Tragedy began to unfold. The Blackstar had grown larger since its last appearance, now nearly twice the size of any human vessel. Worse, it wasn't alone anymore. The converted ships moved in perfect formation around it. The Resolute, Determination, Phoenix, and 4 others, all singing that terrible, harmonious song. "Sir," Colonel Martinez's voice was barely a whisper, "the Valiant is requesting permission to dock at Luna Station. They're the last ship to engage the Blackstar and survive unconverted." Kane nodded absently, his attention focused on the impossible readings from his sensors. The Blackstar's energy output was increasing, exponentially but not in any way that made sense. It was as if the ship was drawing power from the quantum foam itself, from the underlying structure of reality. Admiral, his science advisor, Dr. Reeves, approached with a data pad. "I've been analyzing the patterns in the converted ship's movements. They're not random. They're forming a geometric pattern, something that looks like—" He paused, swallowing hard. "It looks like a summoning circle, sir, a three-dimensional mandala in space." Kane felt ice form in his veins. "Summoning what?" "I don't know. But the quantum distortions are increasing. They're preparing for something big." As if in response to his words, the space around the Blackstar began to ripple. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist, creating gaps through which something else became visible. Not stars, not empty space, but eyes. Vast, ancient eyes that had been watching from the spaces between dimensions. The Watchers. "My God," whispered Martinez. "They're actually doing it. They're opening a doorway." Kane's hand hovered over the Titan grid activation key. One press would turn the inner solar system into a hellscape of nuclear fire, but it might be enough to stop whatever was coming through. Then Sarah Vasquez's voice filled the command center, broadcast on all frequencies. "People of Earth, this is Commander Sarah Vasquez of the USS Blackstar. I know you're afraid. I know you think we're your enemies. But we're still human enough to feel your terror, to remember what it was like to love, to hope, to dream. Aren't you?" The main screen, the Blackstar, had stopped its advance. The portal behind it continued to grow, but the ship itself held position just outside the orbit of Mars. "We've seen what's coming for you," Sarah continued. "The Watchers have been patient, but their patience is ending. They feed on consciousness, on the spark that makes you human. They would keep you alive for millennia, farming your minds like crops, until everything that makes you is gone." Kane's finger remained poised over the activation key. Around him, the command staff listened in stunned silence. "We chose a different path. We let them change us, let them make us into something that could survive what's coming. But we kept enough of ourselves to remember why we fight. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to give you a choice." The portal stabilized, and through it came shapes that hurt to perceive directly. The Watchers themselves, beings of such alien intelligence that human minds could only process them as shifting geometric impossibilities. They were beautiful and terrible, ancient beyond measure, and absolutely without mercy. "Join us willingly," Sarah said, "and we can show you how to become something that can't be enslaved. Fight us, and when the Watchers take you, you'll spend eternity wishing you had made a different choice." Kane stared at the display, his mind reeling. A choice between humanity and survival, between dying as themselves or living as something else entirely. "Admiral," Martinez's voice was hollow. "The Watchers are moving toward Earth." Kane looked at the tactical display one last time. The ancient aliens were flowing through the portal like living darkness, their forms defying three-dimensional space. In minutes they would reach Earth. In hours, humanity as it had existed for millions of years would be nothing but a memory. He pressed the key. The Titan defense grid erupted in synchronized fury. Dozens of planet-killer satellites fired simultaneously, their combined output enough to sterilize entire star systems. The space around Earth became a sea of nuclear fire, white-hot and blindingly brilliant. When the light faded, the Watchers were gone, not destroyed but driven back through their portal. The Blackstar and its converted fleet remained, their alien hulls barely scorched by the assault. Sarah's voice returned, and this time it carried something that might have been pride. "Well done, Admiral Kane. You chose to die as humans. We respect that choice." A pause. "The portal is closed, but it won't stay closed forever. The Watchers will return, and next time, they'll be ready for your weapons. Then we'll be ready for them." Kane replied, activating his transmitter. "Will you? Admiral, you just used your most powerful weapons, and they barely scratch the surface of what's coming. How will you prepare for something that exists in dimensions You can't perceive that feeds on the very thing that makes you conscious? Kane had no answer. There is still time, Sarah said gently. Still time to make the choice we made. We can show you how to become something that can fight them on equal terms. Something that can survive. At the cost of our humanity. Yes, at the cost of your humanity. But humanity as you understand it is already doomed, Admiral. The only question is whether you'll face extinction or evolution. Kane closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 8 billion lives on his shoulders. When he opened them, his voice was steady. We'll find another way. Sarah's laughter was soft and infinitely sad. Perhaps you will, we hope you do. But when you realize there is no other way, when the Watchers return and your weapons fail and your people scream as their minds are harvested, remember that we offered you a choice. The Blackstar and its fleet began to withdraw, moving away from Earth and toward the outer system. As they went, Sarah's voice came one last time. We'll be waiting, Admiral, waiting for you to realize that sometimes the only way to save something is to let it change into something else entirely. Woodars, Chapter 4. The new war 6 months had passed since the Battle of Earth, and the solar system had become an armed camp. Admiral Kane stood in the observation deck of the new orbital fortress, Bastion, watching construction crews work around. The clock to complete humanity's latest defense project. The quantum barrier array, a theoretical impossibility made real through desperate innovation, stretched across the inner system like a web of crystalline light. Status report, Kane, requested as Dr. Reeves approached with a datapad. The array is at 70% completion. At current construction rates, we'll have full coverage in another month. Reeves paused, his expression troubled. Admiral, I need to discuss the power requirements again. To maintain a barrier that can block dimensional incursions, we're going to need to sacrifice. I know what we're going to need to sacrifice, Kane interrupted. The outer colonies. Mars, Titan, Europa, everything beyond the barrier. 30 million people cut off and defenseless. Reeves nodded grimly. It's the only way to generate enough power. The quantum cascade effect requires massive gravitational anchors. We either save Earth and the inner worlds or we lose everything. Kane turned away from the construction scene, his weathered face reflecting the weight of impossible decisions. In the 6 months since the Blackstar's ultimatum, humanity had achieved technological breakthroughs that should have taken decades. Faced with extinction, the human race had reached heights of innovation and cooperation never before seen. But the cost, sir, his aide, Commander Hayes, approached with another report. We're receiving a transmission from the Mars colony. Governor Walsh is requesting another meeting about the evacuation timeline. Kane sighed. Tell her what I've told her every day for the past month. There is no evacuation timeline. There are 30 million people on Mars and barely enough transport capacity for 3 million. The numbers don't lie. Sir, she says she has new information about possible alternatives. Put her through. Governor Lisa Walsh appeared on the holographic display, her usually composed features showing the strain of the past months. Behind her, Kane could see the red landscape of Mars through the dome's transparent walls, a world that might soon be abandoned to whatever horrors awaited beyond the barrier. Admiral Kane, I'll get straight to the point. We've been contacted. Kane felt his blood chill. Contacted by who? The Blackstar. Commander Vasquez wants to meet with me. Face 2. Face. Absolutely not. Governor, you know what happened to every ship that's gotten too close to the converted fleet. They're not human anymore. They can't be trusted. Walsh's expression hardened. Admiral, with respect, 30 million people are about to be left outside your precious barrier. If there's even a chance that the Blackstar can offer us protection. Protection. At the cost of your humanity, Kane interrupted. Walsh, they're not offering salvation, they're offering slavery with a prettier name. Are they? Admiral, in the past 6 months, have we detected any aggressive actions from the converted fleet? Any attacks on human shipping or colonies? Kane paused. It was true. The Blackstar and its companion ships had taken position in the asteroid belt and had made no hostile moves since the Battle of Earth. They simply waited. Governor, whatever they're planning, They're planning to survive, Admiral, just like us. The difference is they might actually succeed. The transmission ended, leaving Kane staring at the blank display. Around him, the construction of humanity's last line of defense continued, each new section of the array bringing them closer to a future where survival meant abandoning millions of their own people. 3 days later, Governor Walsh stood in the airlock of the Mars orbital station, watching as an impossible sight approached. The Blackstar had sent a shuttle, if it could still be called that. The vessel that docked with their station was sleek and organic-looking, its hull seeming to shift and breathe like living tissue. Governor, her security chief, Colonel Morrison, placed a hand on his sidearm. I still think this is a mistake. Noted, Colonel, but 30 million lives are at stake. I have to try. The airlock cycled and Sarah Vasquez stepped through, or what had once been Sarah Vasquez. She still wore a human face, still moved with human grace, but there was something fundamentally different about her. Her eyes held depths that seemed to extend beyond the physical, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated in dimensions Walsh couldn't name. Governor Walsh, thank you for agreeing to meet. Commander Vasquez. Or should I say, whatever you've become. Sarah smiled, and the expression was both beautiful and terrible. I'm still Sarah Vasquez, Governor. I still remember my childhood. On Luna, my first day at the academy, the way my sister used to sing me to sleep. But I'm also something more now. Something that can see patterns in reality that humans can't perceive. And what patterns do you see? Sarah gestured toward the observation port, where Earth was visible as a blue dot in the distance. I see a species standing at the edge of extinction, building walls that can't protect them from an enemy they don't understand. The quantum barrier array is impressive, Governor. Your scientists have achieved something remarkable. But it won't work. Walsh felt her heart sink. Why not? Because the Watchers don't just exist in our dimension. They exist in all dimensions simultaneously. Your barrier can block incursions from one layer of reality, but they'll simply approach from another. You're building a wall to keep out the ocean while standing on the ocean floor. Then what do you suggest? Sarah stepped closer and Walsh fought the urge to back away. Up close, she could see that Sarah's skin had a faint luminescence as if lit from within by alien fire. Join us, Governor. Not as slaves, not as victims, but as partners. The transformation isn't pleasant, but it's survivable. And once it's complete, you'll be able to see what we see, know what we know. You'll be able to help us find a way to fight the Watchers on equal terms, at the cost of our humanity. Yes. But Governor, what is humanity worth if it only exists for a few more months before being harvested by entities that see you as nothing more than food? Walsh stared out at Earth, thinking of the billions of people who would soon be protected by the barrier, and the millions who would be left outside it. What exactly are you offering? Safe passage. Protection. For everyone on Mars, Europa, Titan, and the outer colonies. We can shield you from the Watchers when they return, and they will return. In exchange, those who are willing can choose to undergo the transformation. Those who aren't, we'll protect them as long as we can. And the catch? Sarah's expression grew sad. The catch is that eventually, there may not be any purely human beings left in the universe. The transformation spreads, Governor, not by force, but by necessity. When the Watchers come in force, when they bring their full attention to bear, on this galaxy, only the transformed will be able to resist them. Walsh closed her eyes, thinking of her daughter back on Earth, of the grandchildren she might never see again. When she opened them, her voice was steady. I need time to think. Time to consult with the other colonial governors, of course, but don't take too long, Governor. We can feel them stirring in the deep dark. The Watchers are preparing for their return, and they won't make the same mistakes twice. Sarah turned to leave, then paused at the airlock. Governor, for what it's worth, I hope you find another way. I hope your species proves more adaptable than mine was, but if you don't, we'll be here. The shuttle detached and disappeared into the black, leaving Walsh alone with the most important decision in human history. Admiral Kane received Walsh's report 12 hours later and immediately called an emergency session of the Security Council. Representatives from Earth, Luna, and the major orbital habitats gathered in the virtual conference room, their holographic forms creating a circle of anxious faces. "The situation is clear," Kane began without preamble. "The outer colonies are considering accepting the Blackstar's protection. If they do, humanity will be split into two groups, the transformed and the pure. The question before us is whether we can accept such a division." President Chen of the Earth Assembly spoke first. "Admiral, we've invested everything in the barrier array. If the converted fleet is correct, if the array won't work, then we've doomed ourselves for nothing." "The array will work," insisted Dr. Reeves. "Our calculations are sound. The Watchers may exist in multiple dimensions, but they still need to manifest in our reality to affect us. We can block that manifestation." "For how long?" asked Governor Harrison of Luna. "Admiral, even if the array works perfectly, how long can we maintain it? The power requirements alone will drain our resources within a decade." Kane had no answer to that. The truth was the array was a desperate measure, bought with time they might not have and resources they couldn't afford to spend. But it was human, built by human hands and human minds, powered by human determination. "There's something else to consider," said Director Kim from the Asteroid Mining Consortium. "The converted ships have been scanning the belt for the past month. They're looking for something. Our sensors can't determine what, but they're definitely searching." Kane felt a chill run down his spine. "Any theories?" "Given their technology, they might be looking for specific mineral compositions, or maybe gravitational anomalies. Whatever it is, they seem to think it's important." The conference continued for hours, but no clear consensus emerged. Humanity was faced with an impossible choice: trust in their own technology and risk extinction, or accept alien enhancement and risk losing their souls. Finally, Kane called for a recess. As the holograms flickered out one by one, he found himself alone with the weight of 8 billion lives on his shoulders. Outside the conference room's windows, Earth turned slowly in the void, beautiful and fragile, and utterly unaware of the debates that would determine its fate. His personal communicator chimed, a priority message from the Deep Space Monitoring Station at Neptune. Kane opened it with growing dread. The message was simple and devastating. Quantum distortions detected at the edge of the system, pattern consistent with dimensional incursion, technology, estimated time to arrival 72 hours. The Watchers were coming back. Epilogue. The choice Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Meridian, now stationed at the edge of the quantum barrier array, watching as space itself began to warp and buckle. The Watchers had returned, not with a single portal but with dozens, each one disgorging entities that hurt to look at directly. They were learning, adapting, becoming more than they had been before. "Captain," reported her sensor officer, "the array is holding, but barely. The Watchers are probing for weak points. Each probe is different from the last. They're testing our defenses systematically." Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The barrier stretched across the inner system like a web of crystalline light, each node pulsing with power drawn from the gravitational wells of planets and moons. It was beautiful, terrifying, and possibly humanity's last hope. Status of the outer colonies? Mars has gone dark. So have Europa and Titan. We're receiving no communications from beyond the barrier. Elena's heart clenched. 30 million souls cut off from Earth, left to face the Watchers alone. Unless... "Captain?" Communications Officer Park looked up from his station. "I'm receiving a transmission from the Blackstar. It's your sister." Elena closed her eyes, steeling herself. "Put it through." Sarah's voice filled the bridge, but it was different now. Stronger, more complex, as if multiple voices were speaking in perfect harmony. "Elena, little sister, can you see them? Can you see how beautiful they are?" Through the viewports, Elena could indeed see the Watchers. They moved through space like living mathematics, their forms shifting between dimensions in patterns that made her eyes water. Beautiful was not the word she would have chosen. Sarah, what's happening out there? The colonies are safe, protected. We offered them the same choice we offered Earth, and many chose, differently than you did. Elena felt her blood chill. How many? Enough. The governors of Mars, Europa, and Titan, 12 million volunteers from across the outer system. They chose evolution over extinction, Elena. They chose to become something that could stand against the infinite dark. On the tactical display, new contacts appeared. Ships that looked like the Blackstar, organic, flowing, impossible. But Elena recognized their signatures. These had once been human vessels transformed like the Blackstar itself. The mining platforms, the research stations, the colony ships, Sarah continued. All transformed, all protected, all still fighting for humanity, just not as human anymore. And the others? The ones who refused? A pause. When Sarah spoke again, her voice carried infinite sadness. We're protecting them as we promised. They remain human for now. But Elena, the Watchers have learned since our last encounter. They're not just probing your barrier, they're studying it, learning from it. Soon they'll find a way through. Elena looked at the barrier readings. The power levels were fluctuating wildly as the array struggled to contain dimensional incursions from multiple vectors simultaneously. Sarah was right. It was only a matter of time. What do you want from us, Sarah? Nothing, sister. The choice was always yours to make. But I want you to understand something. We're still fighting. Still trying to save what can be saved. The transformation isn't death, Elena. It's adaptation. It's survival. One of the barrier nodes flickered and went dark. Then another. The Watchers had found a pattern, a weakness in the crystalline web that protected Earth. Elena, Sarah's voice was urgent now. The barrier is failing. You have minutes, maybe less. There's still time to choose, still time to become something that can fight them. Elena stared at the failing barrier, thinking of the 8 billion people on Earth who trusted her, who trusted Admiral Kane, who trusted in human ingenuity to save them. She thought of her sister, lost to alien transformation but still trying to protect humanity in her own way. Captain, her tactical officer called out. The Watchers are breaking through. Multiple incursions detected. They're heading for Earth. Elena activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for dimensional incursion. All weapons to maximum power. We're going to buy Earth as much time as we can. But as she gave the order, Elena knew it wouldn't be enough. Human weapons, human technology, human determination, none of it could stand against entities that existed beyond the boundaries of physical reality. Sarah, she said quietly into her personal communicator, if someone wanted to make the choice you made, how would they do it? Elena, Sarah's voice was filled with something that might have been relief. It's not pleasant. The transformation breaks you down to your component atoms and rebuilds you into something new. You keep your memories, your personality, but you become capable of perceiving reality in ways that human brains can't process. You become capable of fighting the Watchers on their own terms. And the cost? You stop being human. You become something else. Something that can love and remember and fight, but can never again be what you once were. Elena watched as the first Watchers broke through the failing barrier, their impossible forms descending toward Earth like living nightmares. In minutes, they would reach the planet. In hours, 8 billion human minds would begin the slow process of being harvested, their consciousness drained away until nothing remained but empty shells. Elena, Admiral Kane's voice came through the emergency channel. The barrier is failing. We're activating the Titan grid for a final stand. Elena knew it wouldn't work. The planet killer satellites had barely scratched the Watchers during their first encounter. Now, with the aliens prepared and adapted, humanity's ultimate weapons would be useless. She opened a channel to the Blackstar. Sarah, if we choose transformation, and can we still save Earth? Yes. The converted fleet is large enough now, powerful enough. We can drive the Watchers back, seal the dimensional rifts, buy humanity time to decide its own future. But Elena, once you cross that line, there's no going back. You'll never be human again. Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. Good. People, brave people who had followed her into the deep dark without question. They were looking at her now, waiting for orders, trusting her to find a way to save them all. Crew of the Meridian, she said over the intercom. I'm not going to lie to you. We're about to die. All of us. And after we die, Earth is going to fall, and 8 billion people are going to suffer a fate worse than death. She paused, watching the Watchers descend toward her home world. But we have a choice. We can die as humans, or we can live as something else, something that can fight these things, something that can protect the people we swore to serve. Through the viewport, she could see Earth in the distance, blue and white and beautiful, unaware of the horror approaching it. I'm going to contact the Blackstar and request transformation for any volunteer crew members. Those who refuse will be evacuated to the escape pods before the process begins. You have 60 seconds to decide. Elena waited, her heart pounding as her crew made the most important decision of their lives. When the responses came in, she felt tears run down her cheeks. Every single person had volunteered. Sarah, she said into the communicator, this is the Meridian. We're ready. Elena, are you sure? I'm sure. Do it. The Blackstar moved closer, and Elena could feel something happening to the space around her ship. Reality itself was bending, changing, preparing to remake them into something new. Elena, Sarah's voice was gentle now. It's going to hurt, but when it's over you'll understand. You'll see what we see, know what we know, and together we'll find a way to save what can be saved. The transformation began, and Elena Vasquez screamed as her human form dissolved into component atoms. But as she died, she could hear something new, the song that the converted fleet had been singing. And for the first time she understood what it meant. It wasn't a song of conquest or surrender. It was a song of hope, a promise that even in the face of infinite darkness something would survive, something would endure, something would remember what humanity had been, and fight to preserve what it could become. When the light faded, the USS Meridian was gone. In its place was something new, something that pulsed with alien energy and impossible beauty. Elena Vasquez was gone too, transformed into something that could perceive dimensions beyond human understanding. But she was still Elena, still a protector, still fighting for humanity, even if she was no longer human herself. The converted fleet turned toward Earth, where the Watchers were beginning their harvest. 8 billion voices cried out in terror as alien minds touched theirs, preparing to drain away everything that made them who they were. But they wouldn't succeed. Not today. The converted fleet sang their song of hope and determination as they dove toward Earth, their impossible weapons charging with power drawn from the quantum foam itself. The final battle for humanity's soul was about to begin. And for the first time since the Watchers had first appeared, Elena Vasquez, whatever she had become, felt something like hope. Behind them, in the deep dark between the stars, other eyes were watching. Other intelligences that had been waiting for this moment. The Watchers were not the only ancient powers in the universe, and humanity was not the first species to face this choice. The war for the future of consciousness itself was just beginning. But that is a story for another day. End of USS Blackstar entered the war. Nothing survived its path.